Hello everyone, my name is Anastasia. The topic of today's presentation is quality and safety of functional foods. In this presentation, we will consider legislative regulation of FFP in different countries of the world, product quality and safety indicators, limitations and contraindications of some FFPs. Legislative regulation of FFP in different countries of the world. USA. The Nutrition, Labeling and Education Act of 1990 gives the US Food and Drug Administration authority over the nutrition labeling of most foods regulated by the agency. This includes regulation of the health claims brands and include of food labels and the serving size indicated. An NLEA serving size is the amount of food generally consumed by one person during a single eating occasion. NLEA rules. Serving size. More prominent print for the number of servings. Calories. Larger print displaying calories. Clear print showing calories per serving. Added sugars, listed along with total sugar amount to reveal how much is added with natural sugar. Daily value, update daily values for nutrients, percent of the daily value in each serving. Actual amounts of the nutrients include in milligrams and percentage of the daily value in each serving. Required nutrients. Update to nutrients required on the label. Vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium. Interesting fact. In the US, a number of seemingly harmless products are banned. For example, it is forbidden to eat meat grown in other countries. In the same list, a Scottish dish is haggis. It's a lamb's stomach stuffed with lamb's giblets. Americans believe that the legs of this animal are dangerous to human health. Kinder Surprise chocolate eggs are also prohibited. The reason for this is the law prohibiting putting inedible objects in food. European Union. The European Commission concerted action on functional food science in Europe, which is coordinated by the International Life Science Institute, aims to establish a science-based approach for concepts in functional food science. The goal of this concerted action has been to set up a multidisciplinary European network. First, to assess critically the science base required to provide evidence that specific nutrients and food components positively affect target functions in the body. Second, to examine the available science from a function driver perspective, rather than a product driver one. And third, to reach consensus on targeted modifications of food and food constituents, and options for their application. This approach led to identifying key partners from Europe's food and agricultural industry, governmental and intergovernmental bodies, and the scientific community. This project provided them with an opportunity to exchange ideas and to interact on a neutral platform. Russia. Our country has federal laws, technical regulations, national interstate standards that are necessary for state regulation of the production and circulation of a group of specialized products. So, in 2005, the national standard GOST-R, food products, functional food products, terms and definitions, According to this standard, a functional food product is a food product intended for systematic use as part of diets by all age groups of a healthy population, reducing the risk of developing diseases associated with nutrition, maintaining and improving health due to the presence of physiologically functional food ingredients in its composition. To ensure food safety, there are certain rules and restrictions. On the example of a donut with a filling, safety standards are presented. The slide shows the safety standards set out in the document Technical Regulations of the Customs Union, using the example of a stuffed donut. Microbiological safety standards. You can pause the video and read the information more carefully. Hygienic safety requirements and permissible levels of radionuclides cesium-137 and strontium-90. Have you heard about spirulina? Interesting fact, spirulina is a well-known superfood. This algae has become famous for its beneficial properties due to the content of protein, B vitamins, healthy fats, and more. However, recent studies have shown that in addition to beneficial nutrients, spirulina may contain toxins that are dangerous to humans. In our study of spirulina samples, the neurotoxin beta-methylaminoalanine was detected at 65 mg per gram of dry matter. Thus, the use of this dietary supplement in the long term may increase the risk of neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, data based on research at Ítalo University. Distinctive features and effectiveness of FFP. Functional ingredients must be contained in the finished product in prescribed quantities in accordance with the norms of physiological needs for energy and nutrients for various population groups and not exceed the upper permissible levels. The content of each food or biologically active substance in a single serving should be at least 15% of the recommended daily intake. The content of probiotic microorganisms in the composition of specialized or functional food products should be at least 10 to the 6th power colony-forming units per 1 gram of such products. Be used in an easily digestible form, and there should be data on its effectiveness obtained from preclinical and clinical studies. Preclinical studies. When planning preclinical studies, it is necessary to take into account the parameters of the products themselves, their stability, and the potential risks associated with their use. Preclinical studies must be carried out in accordance with the requirements of the rules of preclinical studies. For preclinical testing, laboratory animals, rats, are mainly used. For example, in the study of neurodegenerative diseases, tests such as Sucrose preference test, the open file test, the forced swimming test, and the Morris-Water maze test are commonly used. The Sucrose preference test consists of giving laboratory rats a choice between pure water and a sugar solution. Under normal conditions, rodents prefer sugar water, as the consumption of sugar causes positive emotions. In the case of cognitive disorders such as depression, animals lose interest in sugar, as it is unable to provide pleasure to ill animals and consumption of sugar, and regular water is equivalent. The open field test involves placing rodents in an open box with zones marked on the floor and counting the time spent in the center and on the periphery. Rodents by nature do not like to be in open spaces, as this increases their vulnerability. On the other hand, rodents are also characterized by curiosity and a desire to explore space. Thus, rodents with increased anxiety will prefer to be close to the walls, while animals with reduced anxiety will explore both the outer and inner areas. This test helps to evaluate the effectiveness of drugs aimed at combating anxiety. There are also various variations of this test, such as the elevated plus test, which also has closed and open spaces. The first swimming test is used to assess the depressive state of rodents. Animals are placed in a cylinder half-pipe with water in 2 repetitions, the first time for 15 and the second time for 5 minutes. On the second dive, the time spent by the animal in a passive state with minimal movement is counted. The more active the animal behaves, the better its mental state is considered. Another test with rodents and water is the Morris water maze. As you may remember from our last presentation on food biotechnology to improve the quality of life, the test shows how quickly a rodent learns. Such a test can be used to analyze the effectiveness of the treatment of various neurodegenerative diseases. Before major preclinical studies are initiated, in vitro studies or experimental studies in an animal model are recommended to establish the biological relevance of a particular animal species to an investigational product. Participation in studies evaluating the clinical efficacy of special food is voluntary. Stages of conducting clinical trials. Expert and analytical assessment of the macro and micronutrient composition of food products based on the results of the research. Food safety assessment. Development of protocols and methods for assessing clinical effectiveness. Evaluation of the clinical efficacy of products in the form of single or multicenter randomized placebo-controlled studies, including using a blind method based on the principles of evidence-based medicine. Our research center has already looked at several macro and nano-sized functional food ingredients for preventive nutrition that reduce the risk of the 3 types of non-infectious diseases. In our presentation, Food Biotechnology for Maintaining Human Health and Improving the Quality of Human Life, we have already discussed this topic. Preclinical studies of extracts of biologically active substances as well as food ingredients and products based on them were carried out on toxigenic models of prostate and breast cancer in male and female rats respectively. Rats were administered to the methylnitrosourea in combination with hormones, which in the experimental groups led to the development of tumors of the corresponding organs in all rats. Upon a simultaneous controlled introduction of biologically active substances or product based on them into the diet of rats, there was a general increase in life expectancy, a decrease in frequency and number of tumors and metastases. a decrease in the precancer changes in the gland's prostatic hyperplasia and metastatic on the mammary glands, a decrease in the concentration of oncomarkers in the early stages. Speaking of restrictions, an important risk factor is an allergic reaction at an early age in children. Food allergy is an altered pathological reaction to foods or their components, which is an active immune process that depends on the functional state of the gastrointestinal tract and hereditary predisposition to atopy. In children of the first months of life, the main allergen is CMP, cow milk protein, manifested by itching of the skin, gastrointestinal manifestations, quincus edema. A highly allergenic product is a chicken egg protein, manifested by skin rashes, respiratory symptoms, and indigestion. A common cause of exacerbation of allergic diseases is fish, entails itching, rash, asthma attack. True allergic reactions to food are based on sensitization and immune response to repeated exposure to a food allergen. Interesting fact, some people may not even know they are allergic to milk protein. In some cases, it appears almost unnoticed. Signs of an allergy to milk protein are profuse salivia, runny nose, and lacrimation. Therefore, it is often mistaken for a cold. In addition to food allergies, it is necessary to take into account the possibility of individual food intolerance to the components that make up food products. Unlike food allergies, food intolerance do not cause an immune response and as a result are less of a health hazard. Some people are prone to intolerance to certain functional components. For example, fructose, which is often used as a sweetener, can cause bloating, flatulence, or diarrhea if an individual is intolerant. In the presence of chronic diseases, especially those associated with the gastrointestinal tract, it is necessary to carefully approach the choice of diet. At the same time, functional ingredients are no exception because a product enriched with useful components can harm a person with intolerance to these components. Therefore, in the presence of such deviations, it is recommended to consult with your doctor before using preventive and functional products. In the case of FFPs of the future intended for personalized nutrition, their composition will be selected based on the obtained data on the state of the human body and its genetic predispositions. For example, if there are genes or external factors responsible for the risk of a certain disease, a person needs the appropriate FFP to prevent it. An analysis of the state of the body is necessary in order to exclude or minimize possible intolerances and undesirable effects. Therefore, it is carried out in the dynamic of reserving FFP. Thus, nutrition and medicine in the future, when appropriate diagnostic methods and FFP production methods will become economically available, together we'll be able to provide a significant improvement in public health and increase life expectancy. Thank you for your attention.